In trading, we not only have monetary capital, which is the money we use to trade, but we also have what's called mental capital, and it's just as important. So, mental capital is not only our mental capability to work efficiently. So, if we go back to that chart, think of this red line on the efficiency scale as our mental capital being depleted from us not working as efficiently. So it's not only our capability to work efficiently, but it's also a reflection of our trading mindset and our self image, which are two important things to trading successfully. These include our doubts, our fears. Are we impatient? Are we disciplined? How is our focus? Are we aware of what the market's telling us? Are we having negative thoughts? Are we having positive thoughts about the market, about our trading setups? And how tough are we? Are we following our plan? Are we deviating away from it? Do we have the capability of holding a trade that's not working out in our favor currently? But if we follow our plan, stick to the rules, sometime in the future, that losing trade is going to work out to be a winning one. Things like this represent our self image, and things like this reflect our trading mindset. So, this is just as important. It's very important to preserve when the market is choppy and when there are no setups presenting themselves. Our mental capital is threatened severely when the market is choppy, and it's threatened severely when there are no setups and us as traders are forced to sit on our hands, not touch the mouse, don't touch the keyboard, and don't put a trade on. When the market's choppy, our edge is not there. When the market's choppy, there's going to be no opportunity to make money. When there's no opportunity, there's no edge, we don't put a trade on. So you have to understand that mental capital is just as important as our physical capital in our accounts. You are so vulnerable to losing as your mental capital becomes depleted. And once that mental capital becomes depleted, we're not going to be able to either A, think clearly, and B, put trades on as efficient as possible because our thoughts and our whole emotion and mind state is going to be all over the place. So there's a couple ways that we could protect this mental capital. Obviously, the first one is just walking away when the market's choppy and when there's no setups presenting themselves. But the first one I have listed here is to be able to journal and reflect on that journal. So in our journal, we have to have an emotions column where we could go over our doubts, our fears, our self-image, and our mindset at the time the market was trading, and especially our mindset at the time we put a trade on. So not only do we have to journal that, but we have to reflect on that and find ways where our mental capital becomes depleted. And then maybe once that threshold or that place that our mental capital is depleted, where we're not thinking efficiently, where we're not thinking clearly, then we could go back, reverse engineer it, and then focus on how to improve for the future so we don't ever get to that point and what we could do to completely avoid it. The second one is to avoid beating yourself up. I see traders all the time, they take a loss, they have doubts, they have fears in their trading, they have a bunch of negative thoughts. Am I going to make it as a trader? Why do I keep losing? The best ways to get out of this poor self-image and this bad mindset is to have a constructive thought process on ways to strengthen your weaknesses and strengthen your mindsets. Look at setbacks as ways to just improve and to get better for the future. If you beat yourself up, you're eventually just going to beat yourself so bad to the point where you can't walk, you can't get back up, and try to get better at one point in the future. And then number 3 is something that helped me out tremendously, made me a much better trader, which is reading trading psychology books, either by Brett Steinberger, which is my favorite author. He writes The Daily Trading Coach, Psychology 2.0, and then Mark Douglas, Trading in the Zone. There's just so many good books by these both authors. I would definitely recommend Brett Steinberger over Mark Douglas. I have links as well in the chat room. But these two books, these two authors, really completely changed my whole psychological side, my whole mental side to trading. And whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm feeling like a bad self-image, like I did something wrong, like the market owes me something, I always go back and resort to these books. I read a chapter, read a couple chapters, and then right then and there, my mental capital, it feels like it goes back to normal, and I feel like I'm thinking again right, on the right track. So as soon as it gets depleted, you're not going to trade efficiently. You have to somehow preserve it. That's why mental capital is just as important as, preserving your own physical capital. Read psychology books, don't beat yourself up, and journal. Points number 1 and 3 were really the two main things that made me consistent as a trader. It's more of knowing you yourself rather than trying to know the market. You have to know yourself more than anybody.